La 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 oh. La 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 oh. La 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 oh. Okay, I got one foot on the beach and the other in the Milky Way. Yeah, I eat the sun like a peach, but I do it in a silky way. Candy of the earth in a toe ring. I do the floating and let my soul fling. My energy awaken your energy. Mind full of gold thoughts, fist full of treat. Yeah, I know my father. I be at ease in the muddiest waters. I do not know if we close to nirvana, but mama, I still say to live if you want it in peace. Like to dance alone to the beat of the rebel revolution. Cause when the heat is on and the wind is still, it's all on your will. Chill and be chill. Okay, I got one foot on the beach and the other in the Milky Way. Yeah, I eat the sun like a peach, but I do it in a silky way. Like to dance alone to the beat of the rebel revolution. Cause when the heat is on and the wind is still, it's all on your will. Chill and be chill. And I say, hey yo, this is such a lovely day, yo. Nothing's standing in my way, yo. I'm beautiful because I say so. I get away, and I'm lost in aromas. Feeling like a lucky lotus. I'm glowing my way through the motions. Back on my hocus and pocus, the yoga and cocoa for focus. I'm thinking that Yoko can notice my chill. Tranquilo, baby. Got a lot of loving in my lingo, baby. Born with the Buddha in my stilo, baby. Then I hit the little hula like I'm Lilo, baby. Let's go. And I say, hey yo, this is such a lovely day, yo. Nothing's standing in my way, yo. I'm beautiful because I say so. And I say, hey yo, this is such a lovely day, yo. Nothing's standing in my way, yo. I'm beautiful because I say so. And I say, hey yo, this is such a lovely day, yo. Nothing's standing in my way, yo. I'm beautiful because I say so. Okay, I got one foot on the beach and the other in the Milky Way. Yeah, I eat the sun like a peach, but I do it in a silky way. Like to dance alone to the beat of the rebel revolution. Cause when the heat is on and the wind is still, it's all on your will. Chill and be chill. Candy of the earth in a toe ring. I do the floating and let my soul fling. My energy awaken your energy. Mind full of gold thoughts, fist full of treat. Yeah, I know my father.
Good morning. Hello. How's it going? If you're live, thank you for being here. If you're watching this recorded, thank you as well. Hi, my name is Dave Wilber. My friends call me the Turfgrass Zealot. And music today from one of my favorite electronic artists, the Polish Ambassador. I love it. I love it. How are you? Hi. I'm actually like super excited to be here this morning. I have less anxiety about today than I usually do. Why is that? Because today it's story time. Story time. Let's do story time. I've been wanting to do this for a while. Somebody told me not long ago that I am a great storyteller, that I have great stories. And a lot of them said, you need to do a book, and of course, lots of golf course superintendents and GMs and everybody have said to me, either you need to write a book or I should write a book. Anytime anybody says to me, I should write a book, I'm like, yeah, go ahead and try that. I've ghostwritten a few, and let me tell you, it's not like it sounds. Anybody who tells me to write a book, I go, well, I have other thoughts, about how to do this. So this is part of it. This could be a chapter. You ready? Story time. I want to tell you the story of Hal. Hal he's that memory that stays in my head when I don't want it to be there. Hal is potentially one of the reasons why I decided to hang my shingle and become a consultant and not be a golf course superintendent. Hal represents to me that person that you all have had to deal with one way or another, all wrapped up into one. I want to tell you the story of Hal. So in order to set this story, we need to go back to 1990. I know, old guy stories, right? But some things are historical. And I have just taken my first superintendent's job at a private club. And I am just over 25 years old. No, just about to turn 25. And this was the big move for me. I was also moving out of state, moving to Northern California. And I had visited this golf course for an interview. I liked everything that I saw at the club. Had I met Hal, I'm pretty sure I may not have taken the job. True story. So here I am, my first private club gig. I'm young, I'm impressionable. I am bound and determined to wear that, how do we say it? Model superintendent kind of thing, right? I'm going to do it better and do it right. Do it in a way that nobody else has done it because I've read all the magazines. I've talked to all the right people. I have interned and worked and visited, and I'm ready. I'm ready. And I'm going to conquer this particular country club. I will be the savior. I will turn it around. I will be the thing that everybody talks about. So I thought. Let me tell you about my first meeting with Mr. Hal. Hal Q, we'll call him. That's all I'm going to say. And I'm going to have to change a couple of details here so that, because I would never want to offend anybody's family or anything like that. But so I'm out on the golf course. Second day of work, maybe. And as is my habit, I was driving the golf course backwards. And I get to, and I'll never forget this, I get to hole number 6 tee. And as I'm driving to kind of catch the cart path, a gentleman pulls his cart right in front of mine, nearly hitting me. Jumps off the golf course and says, "Are you the new greenkeeper?" Yes. Yes, I am. Hi, my name's Dave Wilber. What's yours? My name's Hal. Hi, Hal. Now I start to take the scene in. There is, the guy's golf cart's got like stuff all over it. There's all kinds of little gadgets and doodads, and I see a ball picker attached to the golf cart. And let me just tell you that at this particular club, the members own their many of them own their golf carts. So, you know, decorating and, you know, customizing and all that sort of stuff, expected, right? I don't know that we could necessarily call Hal's golf cart decorated per se. It was more, if it was decorated, we'd say it was maybe decorated by Sanford and Sons, you know? It was, in a word, trashy, right? So I'm looking at this whole thing, but yet everything is in some kind of place, you know? So trashy, but also like not disorganized, an organized mess, let's say. And I kind of take this in, and Hal's standing in front of me, and he says, is it true that you're 25 years old? And I said, yeah, I just turned 25. He says, well, what have you done? And I said, well, what do you mean, what have I done? And he goes, well, how'd you get here? Oh, yeah. And I start to run down my resume. Well, I went to there, did this golf course, growing in that golf course, superintendent here, did a rebuild, and he just stops me right in the middle, and he looks at me and says, sounds like you can't hold a job. And I went, no. But you know, it's like, it's one of those things, like, you know, I don't want to be offensive, right? I want to, you know, oh no, sir, I'm really fortunate to be here. And as I looked down at my polished FootJoys, I thought, oh boy, this guy's going to be a scene, huh? Well, hey, Mr. Hal, it was really nice to meet you. I use his last name, right? So I'm not going to use it here, but let's just say, hey, Mr. Sir, it's really nice to meet you. Thank you so much. Enjoy your round, right? And I just want to get out of there because I'm like, oh, I've been assaulted. He says, whoa, wait a minute. What's your, you're only 25. He says, you know, I have a grandson who's about your age, and he's a complete screw up. I don't understand how you got this job. I don't know. I need to talk to somebody right away. Heard all the rumors. I've heard all the scuttlebutt. That was a word he'd love to use. Scuttlebutt, right? And I kind of said, well, I'm really happy to be here. And I just kept saying that, I'm really happy to be here. And this is this is a great opportunity. This is a fantastic golf course. I love this whole Billy Bell design. And I got on my cart and started driving. And I thought, the hell did I just meet? As the days went on, Hal's name seemed to fill the halls of the clubhouse, the golf course, and the whole thing. And as I walked through the men's grill, the bartender in the men's grill, who became a pretty good friend of mine, stopped me. And I stopped to say hi to him or whatever. And he said, well, I heard you met Hal. I said, I did. That was great. He says, yeah, he was in here. He was spouting off about how young you are and how, you've had all these jobs. And I'm like, I don't know these people, right? This is day 3 on the golf course. I barely know where the 15th hole is. And so I said, I said to the bartender, I said, and this was the start of a very good relationship. I said, is there something I need to know about this guy? And he goes, oh, dude, he is, without a doubt, the biggest asshole on the planet. Oh, okay. Okay. I'm starting to get it now. This guy's, he's Hal, right? And the bartender looked at me and says, Dave, some advice. Stay away from this guy. Stay away from him. Oh, okay. Yeah, that's cool. You know, we got, we got 400 members here or whatever. No problem. I can stay with the guy. So, Hal became a target in my eyes. Where's Hal? Where's Hal? Where's Hal? I spoke to Armin Sooney not long after taking this job, and I was talking to him about, how to navigate the politics, a little bit of that, because at the time I didn't know anybody better. I still don't, actually. And Armin said to me, he said, Dave, listen, he said, the devil in front of you is the one that you want to keep him in your sights, right? So the guy who's the jerk, who's the asshole or whatever, that's the guy that you're having breakfast with on Saturday morning. And I'm thinking to myself, well, you haven't met Hal, bro. Haven't met this guy. But I heard it. I heard the advice, and I'm like, okay, I can do this. I can do it. I can do it. So I'm bold, right? I'm bold. And the other thing, the other piece of advice that Armin gave me is he said, you must find common things in life that are common with this guy. There's something that is commonality, right? So I decided, okay, I'm going to make this my project, amongst other projects. Everything was a project then. I was going to conquer everything. Right? And so I started to talk to people, and I'm like, tell me about Hal. Oh, Hal. And what I learned is he was ex-military, and he was really into golf, and he was in everybody's hair, and then he sat on the finance and audit committee, and I just started to gather information about the guy. Okay, I'm getting my dossier together, right? That kind of thing. And by the way, I'm busy, being a golf course superintendent here, turning around a golf course. I inherited a mess, and it was a mess to my standards, and this is no rub on the guy who was there before me, but I had another idea about how things should go. So I'm working with the crew, and I'm working with, a new situation socially, and, just dealing with life, right? Move halfway across the country to take a job. But in the back of my mind, there was always Hal. In the back of my mind. And I seemed to bump into the guy constantly. It seemed like every time I turned around, there he was. Driving that little golf cart. With all this shit hanging on it. And he always had something to say. Always had something mean to say. Mean, Hey, I noticed that guy was driving that orange, is doing it all wrong. Oh, really? Oh, geez. Sir, let me go check on that. Right. Thank you. I had a moment to speak with Hal one day while he was on the golf course, and I said, hey, I hear you're ex-military, retired military. Yeah, it was a long time ago. I said, my father was Navy. Weren't you Navy? Yep. Was. Cool. I said, yeah, my dad, World War II veteran and all that sort of stuff. And he said, yeah, I'm a little, you know. And I said, well, what did you do in the Navy? Now, I already knew the answer to this. I knew that he was a helicopter pilot. Okay. But he was part of a program of enlisted men helicopter pilots. He said, well, I was a pilot and I trained pilots. I said, oh, okay. That's pretty cool. What'd your dad do? I said, well, he was a petty officer cook. He was a flag, like a cook. He did that. He made this exact noise. And I'm like, I don't like this dude, man. And I looked at him and I said, well, that's really great. You know, my dad always said that, and you find a Navy guy, take care of you. I said, well, I don't know. I think your dad was wrong. Oh, okay. Well, anyway, hey, nice to see you. Have a nice round of golf. And I just get on my golf cart and go, I can't stand this. God, man. I walk into the general manager's office one day and he says, hey, we have this finance and audit committee. And I said, yeah, I've heard a little bit about it and, heard about it at the Monday meetings and stuff. I've probably been there month and a half. And he said, well, next Tuesday is their review of you. Next Tuesday. I said, oh, what does that mean? He said, well, you just go to the committee meeting and they just kind of go over your, where you are with your budget and your P&Ls and stuff. And he said, it's no fun, but it's what you do. And I'm like, okay, are you going to be there? No, I'm not. I'm like, oh, okay. So, I'm just getting my feet on the ground here. I'm not even, I don't know who's what or who's, okay, I'm all right. I'm going to go to the finance and audit committee meeting next Tuesday. Here, let me put that on my calendar. Next Tuesday rolls around and I head to the finance and audit committee meeting. And right in the center of the table sits Hal. I wish I could explain because the guy is dressed in, I don't even know how, I can't begin to kind of make the word picture, and I'm really good at word pictures. And all I can do is look at this dude, and he's got some really funky clothes on. And he's got like, I don't know, it's just, it wasn't like business or business casual, but it also wasn't like, he was wearing his sweats, right? And there were some very casual retired people there who were, pretty chill, right? And it wasn't that. I don't know. The guy was just wearing, I guess he thought that he had dressed up as, committee chair. I don't know how else to put it. He had this kind of weird, shirt on that was buttoned weird. And I just like, oh, okay. And he says, well, sit down and this is finance and audit committee and come to order. And he's like fully Robert's Rules of Order, right? Like he's just, he's even got the gavel. Okay. And he's like, all right, well, we're going to dig into your budget and blah, 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 blah. And they start, all the committee starts asking me questions. And at first it was pretty benign. And then all of a sudden it's like, it turned really harsh. And one of the things that we wanted to do, that I wanted to get done right away, is I wanted to get some sprinkler heads switched out. The Eagle rotor was just coming out. I also needed a software update for the Maxi, And so these were the things that we were kind of talking about. Those things had kind of drifted through the political process from the GM to the board, and so now the finance and so Hal says, well, I called and you've got I think I had $110 a head in there, for 4 or 5 heads around every green, right? He said, you got $110 here. And I said, yeah. I said, there may be some swing joint stuff and everything, but yeah, that's kind of, where we're at. And he said, well, I called the people that sell these things and they sell them for $25 or less. Huh? What? And I said, really? Well, who'd you talk to? And he said, XYZ Farm Supply, A&A Farm Supply, right? A&A Farm Supply doesn't have Rainbird golf rotors. And I'm like, and I don't want to disagree. I don't want to disagree with the guy or whatever. And I said, well, I'm not sure that they sell the piece that we're looking at here. And they said, well, they said their heads would work on, here's what they sell will work on your golf course. They said that. And I'm like, well, okay, sir. Gosh, I'll check into that. Yes. All right. Sure. Let me do some research. And of course I'm boiling. I'm just boiling. What the hell is going on here? who was calling the local farm and landscape supply to figure out, this whole thing. And so I dig a little deeper later, but I'm going to get to that. Anyway, we sit through this finance and audit committee meeting, and they go over every line on my P&L, every line, and nearly every expense for the last little bit, and even expenses that had been done before I had been there. And I'm answering all these questions. And Hal looks at me and he says, Dave, the question I have for you, sir, is that there's a few things on this list of improvements, and I just want to know, do you think that we should be doing all these things? Now, there's some stuff on this list of improvements that my predecessor had put together. And some of it was, I didn't know. Resurfacing bridges, doing some car path work, some things like that. I didn't know, And I said, well, I want to look at all this. I mean, there's some of it I'm really familiar with. And again, we're looking at things from the line of play standpoint. And I said, well, there's other things that look like there's some safety issues, and there's things that are just infrastructure. And he's like, listen, I don't want to hear all your double talk. I just want to hear, are these things good or are they bad? And I said, sir, there's no way I haven't gotten into it with some stuff, and I'm thinking particularly about a bridge that was scheduled to be resurfaced, and not a very big one, just a creek crossing kind of thing. And I thought, I suppose we could, this is where I went wrong. And this is where I went wrong. And I said, well, I think something like the bridge resurfacing, we could probably look at that and maybe put that off a little bit. And he goes, I think we can put most of this off. And I said, well, I don't know about that, but we'll listen. let me look. Well, in his mind, I had just said, there's a bunch of stuff we shouldn't do. And so, all right, Mr. Wilber, you're excused. Get out of here. Back to work. Now, let me just explain. Finance and Audit Committee meeting, right? Starts at 10 a.m. Starts at 10 a.m. It's 1 p.m. And I've been there since, 4:30. So I'm dying and having anything to eat, so I run, try to figure out that whole situation and go up the, trying to get a sandwich out of the kitchen or whatever. And I go back down to my office. It was kind of down this hill and down to the shop, and I've got a sandwich wrapped up, and I just want to eat some. I want to get on the golf course. We got stuff to do. And as I walk into my office, there sits Hal, sitting in my office in a chair right in front of my desk. And he says, we got to talk. Oh, hey, hi. I said, listen, I didn't expect that to go that long. And I've really, my guys are only here for another, couple hours, and there's some stuff I've got to do. I was just going to eat real quick and use the restroom. And he said, well, we got to talk. And I said, oh, okay. So I set my sandwich down on the desk, and the guy proceeds to just rip me. If you're going to come to my meetings and you're not going to be prepared, he's just railing on me, right? I'm like, okay. And he says, and those bullshit answers you were given about the thing, about the improvements and stuff. I mean, come on, and I'm like, oh, okay. Yeah. And I'm just like, oh, holy crap. This guy. All right. Well, hey, sir, I've got to get on the golf course. And so I grabbed this sandwich that I had wrapped up, and I just head for my golf cart. And I'm like, I can't talk to this person anymore. I'm done. So, get out of the golf course to get some stuff done. And I go that very day, and I go up to the GM's office, and I said, what is the deal with this guy? He says, yeah, that's pretty tough, isn't it? I said, you didn't even tell me what was going to happen there. I mean, he said, well, I kind of wanted you to experience it in a, how did he say it? Organic way. And I'm like, the organic way just kicked my ass. And then the guy was in my office wanting to really rail on me. I said, who do I work for here? Because, my contract, I mean, it kind of says, I work for you and the board. And I'm starting to, this dude is like, it's pretty overbearing. I said, it seems like he's pretty overbearing to the whole place. It seems like everybody's scared of the guy. well, I wouldn't say he's scared. Everybody's scared of him, but he certainly is a factor. You know, GM, older gentleman who had seen a lot of things. And I'm like, yeah, he's a factor. All right. So anyway, so my boss is not going to intervene. I get it. I'm going to have to handle this situation. And so the words that Armin Suni gave me were that you've got to make the devil your friend are now in my thoughts. And so a few days go by and there's nothing to do with Hal. And let me just back up. Hal is probably a 20 handicap golfer, and that's generous. The guy is just horrible. He's a horrible golfer. His putting stroke, I can't even explain it. I don't know. And he was slow, and it's just, and people hated playing with him. In fact, some people wouldn't play with him. He was just that well known for bad golf and cheating. And I mean, what'd you get, Hal? Oh, I was a 5. Really? I kind of looked like an 8 to me. That kind of stuff, right? So everybody knew about that. We were talking about it in the pro shop one day with one of the assistant pros. I said, is that always his game? And he said, oh, geez. I gave him lessons for a little bit. He says, you can't imagine. This person is just a terrorist, right? Everybody that he's had contact with doesn't like him. I'm like, okay, well, listen. I can fix this guy. I said that to the head professional. I said, I can fix it. I make this guy my friend. This is my new project. So the next time I saw Hal on the golf course, I said, are you playing golf Saturday? Oh, yeah. We were going to go see the grandkids. We're not going to go. Okay. So, well, what time are you playing? I don't know. I've got a tea time. And I said, well, why don't we have breakfast or have lunch, before or after? Why? I said, I just really want to get to know you and hear a little bit about your philosophy. And, and he says, well, okay. And, so, 7:30 Saturday morning, Hal and I sit down for breakfast. And I'm nervous. I hadn't slept the night before. And the man says to me, nobody's ever invited me to eat, I said, well, listen, I just, I feel like maybe we're headed for possibly the wrong direction, and I'd like us to do good, and it seems like you're influential here, and it sounds like maybe we have a lot to talk about. And I would rather not run from you. Right? That's what I said. So I proceed to have an hour of just, one of the worst meals of my life. And I'm not talking about the food. And that went on nearly every Saturday for a period of time. And I had to sit in front of this guy and listen to his bullshit. And not only was he, gnarly as hell about the golf course, my staff, everybody who worked at the club, he also was just kind of a horrible human being when it came to, everything that was going on in the world. Always, a lot of racist language, a lot of, yeah, not good, right? I don't want to get into that, but it was like, it was that old school kind of, old veteran, salty talk. As my dog destroys the set here. And I'm like, well, hey, great. It was really good to hang with you and all that sort of stuff. Well, now I'm the guy's friend. And Armin, if you're listening, I love you. But I don't think you were thinking about Hal. When you gave me that advice. So now I'm Hal's friend. And anytime Hal wanted to, he walked into my office, he stopped me on the golf course and all that sort of stuff. And instead of it being kind of this sort of, we each know our place kind of thing, it became, the boundary got erased, right? And so Hal, you would just walk up to me and say anything you wanted. Not as if we were old friends or anything like that, but just, okay, I've got access to Dave and I'm going to say whatever I want to Dave and about whoever and complain or whatever. And I'm like, oh my God, this guy is so horrible. He's the most horrible human being I know. And I would constantly arrive. And I remember the feeling in my stomach when I would turn the corner into the shop with my cart or my truck, and there would be his golf cart sitting there, and he would park it right in the middle of everything. Like, oh God. And I'd walk into my office, and there he'd be sitting there in one of the chairs in front of my desk, and, you know, often looking at stuff on my desk. So I had to deal with that situation. Man, I'll tell you, the conversations were sublime. The things the man said to me. I think back now and I think, you know, thank God the internet wasn't happening and all this sort of stuff, because I guarantee you this guy would have spent all night Google searching everything. I had to do so much work around this dude. I'd like to tell one specific story. In a moment of complete insanity, I took Hal to a golf course superintendent's meeting. I did. You know, it was a time where that was pretty commonplace. Take a committee member or somebody to a superintendent's meeting, you know? And the Sierra Nevada chapter of the Golf Course Superintendents Association, whom I love, was a little bit more casual than we were at the Rocky Mountain, but still really good people. But there were some people there that sometimes thought that, you know, this day off was a good day to drink some beer and play some golf and, you know, just kind of cut loose a little. Not really cut loose, but you know what I'm saying. I don't have to explain that to everybody. I think everybody's seen this particular, you know, thing at a superintendent's meeting. And, you know, and I used to say when I was on the board and all that sort of stuff, listen, we want to do stuff and do events and sort of stuff that nobody would be embarrassed to bring a GM or a pro or a member to if they brought him as a guest, right? That was the standard. So I took Al to a particular meeting because he expressed some interest in this, mostly because he was sure that what I was doing is, you know, fucking off every week. And yeah, John, you're right. And I'm gonna get to the way that Hal must have populated the world in just a second. At any rate, I take the guy to this golf course superintendent's meeting, and you know, it's at a pretty cool place, club in Davis, California, the El Macero Club. Nice place, you know, good spot. And golf course superintendent there at the time was a friend, Mike Azevedo, and I love Mike. And it was really, you know, I thought, well, this is gonna be a nice day, you know, go play some Bermuda grass fairways, enjoy ourselves. Of course, I have to play golf with Hal. And he's upset because he doesn't have all his stuff, right? He doesn't have, you know, no. He's got to bring a golf bag. You know, he doesn't have his ball picker and his fucking, you know, all his shit, right? And so he's mad about that. And he didn't bring any golf balls. He brought like 4 balls and he lost those in the first 4 holes. So now I'm giving him golf balls, and he's just more and more pissed off. And what a dumb golf course. Oh, look at this. Why would I can't, you know, just grumbling the whole way. And I'm playing with another superintendent and I think a commercial guy. And they're just looking at this whole thing. And finally the superintendent walks up to me and he says, how do you fucking deal with this guy? And I said, well, I kind of do. I don't, you know, and I gave that whole spiel about, well, the devil, you know, you make him their friend. And he just looks at me and goes, that's one of the biggest assholes I've ever met in my life. And, you know, not to mention he's a bad golfer. He's cheating. He's, you know, we're trying to play in a, you know, we're actually playing a small event here, you know? So, you know, it's about an hour drive back to the town that we lived in. And I have to listen to this guy and I've just had enough. You know, I've just had enough. And he starts talking about all the drunken sailors at the superintendent's meeting. Everybody was drunk. And that's when he went back to the club and told everybody that what we do is we all get together and play golf and drink beer. I didn't have a beer. I wanted to have 82 beers and another 100 shots. You know what I'm saying? Like I had a couple of Coca-Colas. Okay. So yeah, that was my experience with Hal. At the Lake Wildwood Club, there was a lot of social stuff going on because it was part of a homeowners association, part of the development. And a lot of them, although it was becoming that a lot of them were living there full time, a lot of them had also, this was a second home. You know, if they lived in the San Francisco area, they would come up. And so there was a lot of stuff that went on the weekends, you know, some parties, cocktail party, come out on the boat because there was a lake. So they'd have their party boat and I got invited often. And it was nice, you know, for a while. Well, then all of a sudden, what started to happen is that Hal was at every one of these things, or at least a lot of them, and I had to deal with this guy. And of course, he would come right up to me because now he's my buddy and start in on me about something, and I'm like, oh, God. So I became a bit of a recluse. I started to kind of, look elsewhere. Assistant superintendent, and I talked about him a lot. And as I was starting to think about possibly, hanging my shingle as a consultant, because I was, fascinated by organic turfgrass, and a lot of the things we were doing are really cool. And I was excited about that. A lot of people were talking to me, and I had an opportunity to, to make something happen there, right? And I'm young enough to make this happen. And I said to my assistant, I said, I think this job is probably yours if you want it. And he said, yeah, I do. I'm a little nervous, about some stuff. And I said, what are you nervous about? He said, well, the budget. I said, oh, I'll get you through that. And he said, and Hal, I don't know how to deal with that guy. He says, I watched you be patient with him and everything. I couldn't possibly be that way. And I said, well, you're going to have to figure that out. And I gave him some of the philosophy, So as I was making my transition out, I spent a little bit of time in the kind of doing both thing, and my assistant was learning the ropes, and so I took him to a finance and audit committee meeting, and he was how do I say it, completely floored by the whole scene. And I said, see, this is what it's about, and I took him to, we didn't have a greens committee, we had a golf committee, right? So I took him to golf committee meeting. Oh, by the way, let me just tell you something. The golf committee. Hal did not sit on the golf committee, nor the men's club or the women's, obviously the women's club board or any of that stuff, but he was still in the room. And on the golf committee, he was particularly in the room because his wife was on the golf committee. True story. She was the 18-hole ladies representative for a couple of years. And I had to deal with it. And she would, of course, parrot the things that he was saying. So, a lot of it I knew that had nothing to do with it. But she did say at a meeting one day, she said, our golf course is horrible. I'm embarrassed. And it was August. It was 1,000,000,000 degrees. I had gotten my butt whipped. The POA, laid over on its back. And I mean, it wasn't bad or anything like that, but it wasn't what it should be. And I knew that. But she just, came around and said, our golf course is embarrassing, she said, and I'm like, oh, I can't fucking take it. But, I was cut out of that cloth. I was going to be the poster child. I had that GCSAA, I hate to say it, but I had that thing, I'm going to, my shirt is buttoned just so, my foot joys are polished. I got another pair of boots in the cart. Like I'm doing what I think I'm supposed to be doing, but what I should have done is put the guy in his place early on. And that's what had happened, is this particular character had, he had just bullied everybody, and everybody was, afraid of what he might do, what he might say, whatever, it's like, and really, as I look back, there's nothing that he could have really done. He wasn't going to cost me his, my job. Nobody was really, everybody had to listen to him, but nobody was really believing him, right? So if he complained and said, hey, this is the way something is, it was like, oh, it's just Hal, right? And I didn't know that. Now that is a much different member than the member who's sitting back watching and decides they don't like something and then throws a bomb and can really blow up your career or your project or whatever it is, right? And here's where the wisdom comes in. I mean, I didn't I didn't start this thing today to just complain about a guy. Okay? Because as John Dempsey just said, that guy is everywhere. There are very few golf facilities, especially private clubs around the world, that don't have a Hal in one form or another. There's a big difference between the clanging gong, the noisy clanging gong that everybody has to listen to, that they shouldn't listen to, right? That can really derail an operation, if you want to know, versus that, that guy who is, man or woman or whatever it may be, who is influential in a way that if they do or say something, everybody listens. We know those guys, we know them too. I don't know. Give them a name, right? Roger. Or a great female player, right? Good female players and stuff like that sometimes can really derail some stuff if they don't like what's going on. And often, as a couple, it can be a powerful thing. Every place has a Hal. I had mine. I've seen them, dealt with them in one form or another. And again, as a consultant in my early years, I tried to kind of coach superintendents to how to deal with these people. And I thought, well, I was right? Because, he became the devil I knew. But the truth is I think, that wasn't how to deal with them. And so I was giving some bad advice, and now I have a whole different way to coach people about that. And basically what I say is, listen, you need to shut this down, and you need to shut it down quick. And you shut it down by getting another member or two involved and get the guy handled. Members got to handle members. That's how it works, right? Board members or whatever. And subsequently, I've actually seen some clubs give a guy like this their walking papers. Here you go. Here's your membership. Thank you very much. Please don't come back. It's rare, but it happens. A person like this can really destroy an operation. Certainly destroyed my good times some days. I just would just sit and cry. Hey, speaking of crying, when I announced my true and total resignation from this club, Hal came to me and he looked at me and he started to get tears in his eyes. And he said, Dave, you're like my son. I thought, fuck you. I am not your son. He actually had a moment of clarity. How does the story end? Well, I went on to other things, and Mr. Hal, and this is a true story, 4 or 5 years later, and I'm not laughing. Okay, please understand me. I'm not laughing. Don't really worry about the guy who complains all the time. Listen to the ones who don't. You know what? That is exactly true. That's exactly true. From the comment, from the chat. And by the way, if you're here and you feel like you have something to say, say it. I love it when people chime in. That's why the chat is there. Use it. Hit that chat button. Yes. Yes, exactly. Find the ones who don't. It's a corollary to the Armin Sunni rule of have breakfast with your enemies, keep the devil in front of you, but also find the devil that's lurking in the weeds. 4 or maybe 5 years after I was no longer golf course superintendent in this particular place, Hal, I'm not laughing here. I'm not, I kind of believe in karma. I think you make your own way through the world, and a lot of times you pay for how you do it. Hal walked onto the 18th green. He had a heart attack, and he died. True story. I'm looking at my notes. There's one more short story that I want to tell, because that's not the note I wanted to end on. came to work one beautiful morning, sun shining, birds singing, flowers blooming, and everything just feeling perfect. And my assistant called me on the radio and he said, you need to come over to the sixth hole, between the fifth and sixth. Okay. Can it wait? Because I've got something cooking and no, you need to come over. Okay. All right. We had some radio codes, for how bad it was. And the code, the keyword, whatever it was he gave me was kind of the, it's nobody's dying, but it's pretty damn important, right? Get here. So I go rolling over there and I roll up and there's a satellite box and it is flattened. It's flat. It's flattened, right? I don't know how to explain. We had those older Rainbird satellite boxes, the metal ones, and the thing was it just looked like a truck hit it. And so we're standing there talking with my second assistant, my crew foreman. This is what we called him at the time, and my assistant. And I'm like, wow, what happened? And he said, you're not going to believe who did this. And I said, give me a hint. Thank you, John. Thank you for being here. Finish painting that house. Yes, sir. Thank you, John Dempsey. I am a huge fan of yours. And I appreciate you dropping in on my stuff. At any rate, I said, you're not going to believe who did this. And I said, who did this? And I'm thinking it's one of the, it's like my rough mower or, and they look at me and they said at the same time, two voices, right? Hal. Hal flattened the thing. He was driving, looking for a golf ball, doing one of those turn deals, where you're turning, looking for the ball, whatever, and he just nailed the thing. I said, well, where is he? It must have hurt. Oh, he went on. So he was, he was playing golf, right? And I'm like, well, how many groups? Well, he's, probably on 7 by now or whatever. And I'm like, well, you guys, we had some spares and some stuff like that, but it was demolished, right? It was like, this is not what we wanted to do. And I'm like, well, let's get the power off and get it fixed. I mean, I don't know what to tell you. And they're like, well, what are you going to do about Hal? And I said, I don't know what I'm going to do. Just, just fix the fucking thing, right? I'll deal with the politics around here. So, and I'm mad. This is my golf course. How dare you run over a satellite box on my golf course, kind of thing. So I drive and I find him. He was about 3 groups ahead. There were kind of 2 holes that were off by themselves. And okay, so, so it took me a minute and I found him. Hey, sir, Mr. because he was always Mr. Q. Hi, can I talk to you a second? And I'm looking at his golf cart and it's all fucked up, right? It's all smashed in the front. And I said, I heard we had a little problem today. And he says, what kind of problem? I said, well, it's my understanding you had an accident, with one of my satellite controllers. And he said, and of course there's my satellite controller. And he said, listen, I'll hit whatever I want out here. True story. He says, that damn thing shouldn't have been there anyway. Shouldn't be there. You need to move it. This gives you an excuse to move it. I said, well, we're not moving it. There's tons of wires that come into thinking, that's not how that works. Well, it shouldn't have been there. I said, well, what are you going to do about your golf cart? And he said, the club will have to pay for it. I said that. So I'm like, oh shit. So I jump in the cart and I roar up to the clubhouse and I, I was young and gnarly. And I walk into my general manager's office and, knock on the door like I always did as I was on my way in. And he said, oh, David, what's wrong? He knew, right? David, he called me. David, what's wrong? And I said, sir, Hal ran over one of my satellite boxes. He says, he did what? I said, he hit a satellite box and flattened it. He goes, you're kidding. And I said, no, I told him. And then I told him what Hal said to me. I told him how he said it shouldn't have been there. The club will have to pay for the damages on his card. And he goes, oh God. He's, and his face is in his hands. And he says, well, Dave, what does that cost? And I said, well, it's destroyed. It's, I mean, I don't know. It's, the clock, the whole thing. I mean, it's probably $1,200, at that time, that kind of money. Not to mention our time. It's going to take us all day to get this sorted so that we can water, if we need to. We probably won't get to water tonight, actually. So, 2 guys all day. So he's a smart guy, right? He's doing the math. He says, so this is, $2,500 or whatever. And I said, well, it's probably not that much, but in that neighborhood. And he said, well, he's going to have to pay. And I said, good luck with that. Good luck with that. So of course I kept all the receipts and kept track of all the hours, and I gave it, here's the thing. And it was before digital cameras and stuff, but I still managed to take a couple of pretty good pictures. They're on some slides somewhere in a box somewhere. And we'd look at the whole thing, and as far as I know, the club never got any money out of him. But I also know they didn't pay for his golf cart. I do know, however, that he went into the bar that day and told everybody that we had put the satellite controllers in all the wrong places, and he hit one, and he wouldn't have, if we'd put it in the right place, he wouldn't have hit one. And by God, this is how. Turf heads are from around the world. Let me tell you something. You will deal with this man. You will deal with that woman. You will deal with that person somehow, some way. You will have your how. It's not if, it's when. I thought maybe telling the story would, 1, tell you that you're not alone, and 2, that it would tell you that there are some different ways to handle things. And sometimes we've been taught to be passive, and not that we should be aggressive, but the whole idea of being a little more active in a situation to end the harassment or whatever it may be is probably better. That's the wisdom. That's the thing. Well, this is like the funeral music just came on. What is this? All right. Well, listen, that is my time. Thank you so much for listening. I appreciate it. The Turfgrass Zealot project is a lot of fun for me, and I hope it's fun for you. Please enjoy your day. If you're listening to this recorded, thank you. Thank you for doing that. Liking and subscribing right now is important, and I hate begging, but please do it. My name is Dave Wilber. I am, in some circles, known as the Turfgrass Zealot. And I'm happy to be here. Really happy to be here. Thank you so much. Thanks for watching. Thanks for being amazing. May you have fantastic week, fantastic days, and I will speak to you soon. Take care.
Okay, I got one foot on the beach and the other in the Milky Way. Yeah, I eat the sun like a peach, but I do it in a silky way. Like to dance alone.